up, you guys? It's Naseem here. Now, after going back and using the iPhone 10 for a good amount of time now, the one thing that kept coming to my mind after day-to-day use with it is this one simple statement that I think explains the iPhone 10 pretty perfectly. And that statement is, I think that the iPhone 10 is the best, cheapest budget phone that you can get in 2022. And I say that because everyone knows that the iPhone 10 is a premium iPhone. It has a premium build that instills durability. It has a premium software that is still getting newer updates. It has a top tier camera that captures high quality photos. And it has a great display that still holds up well in 2022. And while most of us knew this about the iPhone 10, the one thing that a lot of people didn't know was that as of right now, the iPhone 10 is listed at $300 right now, making it over $130 cheaper than the iPhone SE3 and $200 cheaper than the iPhone 11. And while the 10 is a very old device when compared to the SE3 and 11, I would say that when it comes to price, the 10 gives you a much more premium experience without you having to pay that extra money. And that's where the 10 has the advantage. But even when we look at the phone by itself, it still was a really great phone for its time. But the only question that I had surrounding it is if it's still able to hold up in 2022. And I want to give you guys my personal experience based on my day-to-day use with it. And now the first thing that I wanted to look at when it comes to how the iPhone 10 holds up in 2022 is the display. Now the iPhone 10 has a 5.8-inch Super Retina HD display that I will say still holds up really well to this day. Another advantage that this phone has over the SE3 and 11 is the overall feel. Like whenever I was using it, everything felt as smooth as butter and was still able to handle iOS 15 really well. I also really liked how good the haptics were. They weren't as good as the 13 Pro or 13 Pro Max, but the display was still really responsive. And thankfully, I haven't gotten any lags yet, and it still felt like a newer iPhone. The size was also a little smaller than the iPhone 11, but it didn't really bother me that much since it was a little difference, but I still was able to do everything that I wanted to do on it without having to squint my eyes, so I would say that the size was still really good. And now the one thing that I kind of didn't like on the 10 was the brightness. Like whenever the sun was shining, it was really hard for me to see, which resulted in me putting my hand over the screen to get a better view. And again, I wasn't expecting it to be better, but with that $300 price tag, it really wasn't a deal breaker. And now the final thing that I liked about the display was the beautiful resolution that I will say was definitely better than the 11 and the SE3. It was much bigger than the SE3 and had a better resolution in both, which really made up for a really good viewing experience. And to show you guys what I mean, here's an example of me watching a video and playing the game.
And the NBA Finals and ended up losing to the Lakers. Good start for Jimmy Butler. That's not normally a strength of his game, but shooting it good so far here in the postseason. Here is Strus letting it fly, and it's 5-zip Miami.
You know that Embiid's not going to play him tight, and he moved into so that he get a floater.
Here's the zone by Miami. They get it to the corner. Danny Green drills it.
And now the next thing that I wanted to look at when it comes to how the iPhone 10 holds up in 2022 is the software. Now on the iPhone 10, I was using the iOS 15.4.1 update, and I can honestly say that it was pretty good when it came to how well it handled. Again, this is an older iPhone, so it didn't handle the OS as smooth as the 13 Pro, but I would say that it ran well enough for me to not have any major complaints. And the only problem that I had was that it wasn't able to run any power heavy games without any lags. Like there will be some games where I got no lags, but then there will be others where I did get lags every 15 seconds, which had me very cautious when using it. But besides that, it still had those very premium iOS features like the ability to connect to different devices at ease, iMessage, FaceTime, and all of the premium iOS apps that many people use. And overall, it still had that iOS smoothness that even with the bugs was a joy using. And if you are someone who's considering getting this phone, then using less power heavy apps will improve the performance and minimize the bugs. And now the next thing that I wanted to look at when it comes to how the iPhone 10 holds up in 2022 is the battery. Now when it came to the battery on the iPhone 10, I will usually get around 5 to 6 hours of on-screen time, which was still able to last me for a good portion of the day. Now keep in mind this phone is older and I do have a refurbished version, so the battery had to take a dip due to it being used. And at the end of the day, I will usually end up with 15% battery left, which was still good for an older phone, but there were many times where I would be at work playing a game and the battery would die before the end of the day arrived, so it was always good to keep a battery pack on me. And now when it came to charging speeds, I would say that just like on any other iPhone, the times where my phone would die early, I would put it on a charger and it would charge up to 30% pretty quickly. And it wasn't ultra fast like the OnePlus 10 Pro, but it definitely wasn't super slow. So overall, I would say that the battery on the iPhone 10 was really good. And if you're someone who is looking to get the 10 in 2022, then this phone will last you all day with no problems if you're not using power heavy apps. Now the next thing that I wanted to look at when it comes to how the iPhone 10 holds up in 2022 is the speakers. Now the speakers on the iPhone 10 were surprisingly good when compared to the SE3 and 11. The bass was the only part of the speakers that I would say was weak, because when I play my music out loud, I definitely couldn't hear any. But when it came to overall sound quality, the speakers were very premium and it made me want to listen to music on my phone. Like whenever I got up in the morning, I would play a peaceful song on my 10 and didn't need headphones, which was pretty nice. And to give you guys an idea of how the speakers sound, I'm going to play a video so that you can see just how loud they are.
NBA Coach of the Year, Monty Williams, on the sidelines. Kleba knocks one down.
Spice up every bite with the new White Hot Ranch Nacho Fries at Taco Bell.
Doncic with the steal. And they've got numbers. Luka inside like a layup drill. Empty side two-man game. Bullock goes to the screen. Luka with the step back. Got it.
And now the final thing that I wanted to look at when it comes to how the iPhone 10 holds up in 2022 is the cameras. Now the iPhone 10 has a 12 megapixel telephoto and wide camera that was able to hold up really well by today's standards. And even though it was an older iPhone, the iPhones of today are still using 12 megapixels, so the quality wasn't that far off from any of the newer iPhones. Like right here, you can see my outside daytime photos, and I would say that they were really good pictures that turned out really well. The skies were very vibrant yet color accurate. The trees and other aspects of nature were very sharp. My face looked pretty color accurate, especially when compared to last year's version where it will look light at times, and the overall vibrancy of the outside pictures were great to no surprise. Now when we look at the inside daytime photos, I will say that these were also really great. Like right here, you can see that there was no graininess no matter how dark it got, and my selfies were top notch when compared to other flagships. The quality got much better, the sharpness was still great, and the colors were very accurate, which definitely redeemed the camera overall. And when it came to video quality, the 10 had one of the best to offer, and to give you guys an example, here's some videos that I took on it. So here it is, the final question. Should you get the iPhone 10 in 2022? I would say that if you're someone who doesn't want to spend the extra money and still want a good iPhone experience, then the 10 is 100% worth buying in 2022. And there it is, you guys, my review on the iPhone 10. Now let me know down in the comments, would you still get the iPhone 10 in 2022? Let me know. And if you guys made it to the end of this video, I would like to say thank you for sticking around, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe. It'll be very appreciated. And as far as social media, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.